The problem with the world is that the intelligent people are full of doubts, while the stupid ones are full of confidence. Charles Bukowski. I'm sure a lot of my audience would look at this quote and say, yeah, that's true. I agree with that. But what if I told you that you would also agree with something that is directly contradictory? Confidence is something you create when you believe in yourself. What you believe yourself to be, you are. Claude M. Bristol, which then, of course, leads to the Bible scripture, as a man thinketh in his heart, so shall he be. The Dunning-Kruger effect describes this first quote. What's the Dunning-Kruger effect? In psychology, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias in which people with low ability at a task overestimate their ability. It is related to the cognitive bias of illusory superiority, and it comes from the inability of people to recognize their lack of ability without the self-awareness of metacognition. People cannot objectively evaluate their own competence or incompetence. Now, I'm sure a lot of people would say, yes, I agree with that. There are a lot of people out there that are so stupid, they don't realize how bad they are at things. But wait a minute. Doesn't the Bible say, as a man thinketh in his heart, so shall he be? So shouldn't just internal confidence get you through? If you believe yourself and believe in yourself and what you're going to do, and then go make it happen, what you know or don't know about any particular thing shouldn't matter, should it? You see, the two things are diametrically opposed, but there is an explanation, and it's in psychological operations. We're going to train on this week over at the Patreon channel. There's an answer that satisfies both of those requirements, even though they seem diametrically opposed. And here's a hint. It has to do with who is determining success. But in today's video, we're going to actually answer some questions and kind of go around the horn from the past week. The first question that I got was from somebody who was alleging that they were in the Coast Guard, and it was about yesterday's video. They said that a Coast Guard icebreaker was one thing and a Coast Guard cutter was another. Well, all I was doing was reading exactly what the article said, and I'll read it slowly this time, and you tell me what you think. U.S. Coast Guard's Polar Security cutters to receive Mark 38 Mod 4 guns. The United States Coast Guard has confirmed that it intends to install the new Northrop Grumman 30mm Bushmaster Mark 44 autocannons with MSI mount, designated as Mark 38 Modification Mod 4, on some new cutters. But the U.S. Coast Guard was vague as to which cutters they would be, except for the Polar Security cutters. These new heavy Polar-class icebreakers are currently being built for Antarctic resupply missions and are slated to receive two autocannon mounts that were originally intended as 25mm Mark 38 Mod 3s. The U.S. Coast Guard has confirmed to Naval News that the Polar Security cutters will be upgraded with the new Mark 44 30mm autocannons. Now, I'm not some expert on the Coast Guard, but just reading that paragraph, it sounds like icebreakers are a form of a cutter. And we talked about why this was a big deal, because this new Mark 4 that they're putting on icebreakers headed for Antarctica, whose mission is resupply, have the ability to fire weapons that are meant for taking out incoming aircraft. And I didn't cover this yesterday, but it says it right here. The ability of the Mark 44 to also use the variety of NATO 30mm rounds, including air-bursting rounds, gives the Mod 4 the capability to engage a wider range of small, mobile, numerous, and fast-moving targets, such as drone swarms, small boats, certain incoming projectiles, and select aerial targets. The U.S. Coast Guard acquires its cutters weapons from the U.S. Navy's budget as the U.S. Navy allocates a certain number of weapons to the Coast Guard. Now, they talk about different cutters and what they may or may not get in the coming years, but I think specifically, this should make people ask questions. Why would an Antarctic icebreaker Coast Guard cutter need a top-of-the-line Mark IV weapon, 2 mounted on the bow and 2 mounted aft, that have the ability to take out drone swarms and incoming projectiles and aircraft? There are no pirates in the Southern Ocean. What possible use could they have in Antarctica on a craft specifically designed for resupply? That literally makes absolutely no sense unless there's a threat down there they're not telling people about. Now, also, U.S. government report proposed nuking the moon. Newly released documents reveal. Now, I didn't go into this particular topic specifically, but maybe I should have. The things they're talking about doing, or had been talking about doing, are way more conspiracy theory or incredulous than anything I've ever talked about regarding Antarctica. One of the ideas that they had, and I downloaded all of these documents, there's hundreds and hundreds of pages, looking for these exotic metals that they would want to use that were stronger than steel but 100,000 times lighter. Other reports do not shy away from bold, and even, this is their word, not mine, sometimes outlandish proposals for realizing advanced technologies. In a report on negative mass propulsion, the authors propose a plan to look for extremely lightweight metals in the center of the moon that may be 100,000 times lighter than steel, but still have the strength of steel. To reach the center of the moon, the authors suggest blasting a tunnel through the lunar crust and mantle using thermonuclear explosives. Now, what is more crazy? The idea that there could have been a lost civilization in Antarctica years ago, or launching thermonuclear explosives at the moon in the hope of finding metals we don't even know exist to create craft and different things to explore space. Which is crazier? Now, speaking of crazy, some people have thought that my allegation about Nikki Fried, the agriculture commissioner in Florida, her chances in the next election, even if she would run as a governor's candidate, would be just wildly off base. Well, what she's done has been something that no other Democrat in recent history has done. She's grabbed 3 of 4 topics, 2 pertaining to the right and 1 pertaining to the left, that if she were to pursue, could give the governor something to answer for. It would actually take the governor off of offense and put him on defense, and that's the key. What are the 4 topics? Cryptocurrency, Second Amendment rights, cannabis, and legalized prostitution. Now, to be very honest, she has said nothing about legalized prostitution, but she has sued the Biden administration over cannabis and the Second Amendment. Now, she hasn't said, if you elect me, I will sue the Biden administration. She's already done it, saying that she has a right to have a concealed carry permit and have a weapon to protect herself, and she has a right under Florida law, because it's been legalized, to have medicinal marijuana, and she has a card. So she's used a states' rights ruling, the Rohrabacher bill, that says specifically that the federal government cannot intervene in state events where state laws and federal laws conflict. She took a huge beating from the left when she came out for cryptocurrency. So 3 of the 4 things I have pictured here, she's already dug into, that a lot of folks on the right would agree with. So she's only one piece away from this puzzle right now. So it's definitely something to watch. One of my Patreon subscribers asked me, Patrick Quinn, hey, FM, if you were Governor Ron DeSantis, then what would your strategy be to beat Nikki Fried if she ran on all 4 points that you mentioned that could become a problem for our governor? And I laid this out for all 4. Marijuana. She herself, being a user, cannot objectively be a governor. Being the commander-in-chief of the Florida National Guard, anyone who uses drugs cannot be in command of such a force. That, by itself, should disqualify her. You see, she has her marijuana, but it's up to her when she is using it, when she's not. You can't have someone being in charge of the Florida National Guard who could be called to duty at any moment in time, having the chance that they're under the influence of something. Second Amendment. And this is a key that is a much bigger argument that we probably need to do a video by itself on. Point out the fact that if Nikki Fried truly valued her Second Amendment duties, not rights, duties, she would not insist on both being a random user of drugs while armed. See, this is a lot of things that people on the right, they disagree with. They go, well, Second Amendment says I just have a right to this, and that. The Second Amendment is actually a duty to be part of the militia and be prepared to be a part of the militia. It's not just you sitting on your ass, eating popcorn, drinking beer, and having a gun cabinet full of guns. No rational person of any party affiliation would think anyone could use a firearm safely if called upon while under the influence of anything. That's what I would recommend the governor take as a position if brought up by Nikki Fried. Cryptocurrency, point out the fact that it is the biggest Ponzi scheme ever. And if it would ever fail, and many things do, there is absolutely no recourse in the courts and no insurance for deposits. A lot of crypto folks don't get this. If it would start to go into a slide, a major slide, and you decided, you know what, okay, maybe I do want to sell, you got to find somebody to buy it. You aren't guaranteed. You aren't guaranteed to have somebody to buy it. You could lose everything, and there's no suing, no recourse in the courts, no insurance. Legalized prostitution. I would encourage Nikki Fried and the governor, either one, if they believe this is something that is the will of the people of Florida, let it be so. Let it go to a ballot referendum and have the will of the people of Florida be known. I personally believe it would be soundly defeated, as most Floridians are older, devout, evangelical Christians. So, just wanted to cover those topics. But there is one more thing I wanted to cover, because it's something we've talked about before, and it's a story out of Denver. Jared Polis, governor of Colorado, is mayor of Denver or governor of Colorado, I'm not sure. Florida's authoritarian socialist attacks on the private sector are driving businesses away. This is a tweet from him. Some businesses, yes, but the vast majority of businesses are flocking here. He says in Colorado, we don't meddle in affairs of companies like at Disney. Well, Disney meddled in the affairs of Florida first. This is just a response, Mr. Polis. If Disney had just said and came out with a statement, you know, we're against the Parental Rights Act. We don't agree with it. That's our opinion. And they had stopped there, The governor wouldn't have done a darn thing. But that's not what Disney did. Disney not only said that, they then said, all this money we're earning as a corporation in Florida, the state that's given us the privilege to operate, we're going to start taking this money now, and we're going to start to work to overturn the will of the people of the state of Florida. That's a step too far. That's why Florida responded. It wasn't that Disney had an opinion. It was that they said, based on their opinion, they were going to actively try to work against the people of the state of Florida. Now he says, hey, at Disney, we're ready for Mountain Disneyland. Hey, Jared, so are Floridians. We'll help them pack. There are plenty of attractions in Florida other than Disney. Lots and lots of them. And at Twitter, whatever, Elon Musk, we all know the story. But yeah, I'm right on there with you, because we've talked about this before, and I haven't for a while. But I made this image so that people could grab it. Anyone in the United States who believes they don't live in a socialist society or a socialist country is just deluded. So I made this specific acronym. You won't find this anywhere else. It's called TRAILS. Taxed, regulated, approved, inspected, insured, licensed, secured, and subsidized. All businesses, no matter where you're at in this country, whatever state, you will pay taxes. And you can be controlled by the amount of taxes you have to pay. Regulated. All businesses are regulated, both by the federal and state governments. Approved. You aren't entitled to a business license. You have to have a business or an activity approved by most governments. Inspected and insured. Cars, boats, trailers, you name it. You want to operate them? You've got to have a governmental approval, inspection approval for them. Licensed. Driver's licenses, business licenses. Huge problem here in the state of Florida. Scammers everywhere wanting to put on roofs and wanting to do house maintenance for people and wanting to do lawn maintenance for people and do all this kind of stuff. And they have no licenses and no insurance, and they're just scammers. And they take money and they jet. This is why the government here in Florida says, make sure you are operating or you're doing whatever you're doing with a license. And those of you who are hiring people, make sure they are licensed. Secured and subsidized. People love to talk about inflation. The government is already paying 40% of your grocery bill, regardless of inflation. That's right. The vast majority of the things bought in the grocery store are made with items that the government subsidizes the producer, meaning they've already cut them a check so that they can keep the prices low on the shelf. And secured basically is security services. There are certain things that you just have to secure by law, meaning government involved, or you won't be allowed to do it. This is all a form of control of business, because people say socialism is when the government takes control of, well, guess what? How many things have I listed here? 8? 8 different ways that without these ways you'd have anarchy. You'd absolutely have anarchy if you didn't have taxes, regulations, approvals, inspections, licenses, and securities. And if you think things are expensive now, if government got rid of subsidies or got rid of insurance requirements, things would be a lot more expensive. So in one sense, Jared Polis is right. It is a form of socialism, but not all forms are bad. So I will leave it there. And I just wanted to cover all this because, I just want to answer the questions, but join us over at Patreon. It's $1 per month. Less than that if you sign up for an entire year. Gloves off. Very Very little censorship, if any. Fully refundable first 90 days. Only one single US dollar. Believe me, you will not regret it. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.